Hey everybody, welcome back. We're back from winter break, all fat and happy and whatever. This is an umpires in the umpires clubhouse today with another umpire. We have Gary Darling joining us. Gary has been an umpire longer than he cares to admit, or he's now retired. Kind of in the James and Jimmy and Dale mode, they've been there a lot of years. So, and we're anxious to hear the stories that Gary has. Gary, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you guys for having me on. Yeah.
Gary, we'll start off right now because Gary has a very cool nickname that he's got from years ago, Zap, Z-A-P. I don't know
Oh
if you really want
God,
to go into that story.
I wonder if this story was going to come up or not.
Well, I don't know if he wants to
It
tell the
didn't take
story.
long for crying out loud.
Well, because I'm going to call you Zap, and people say, "What the hell is he saying?" But, but one of the favorite stories was when you went to umpire school, and they're going first day down the list, the roster. And they said, Gary Darling. And you said, yeah. And McSherry, what'd he say? He said,
He didn't want. It took a little bit, but he didn't want to. He wasn't going to call somebody darling because everybody goes by their last name like the military, and he wasn't going to call somebody darling for 5, 6 weeks. So he nicknamed me Jones.
so you
And
were
then,
Zap Jones through.
well, we'll give Spooner came up. Bill Spooner came up with the zap part of it. Once they got out, they couldn't understand why this crooked arm guy was limping around umpire school. What his story was, and when it got out that I had climbed up a power pole when I was 20 in 1978 and got too close to the lines and fell off and did a little damage to the body, and
Yeah, but hey, you're here.
I'm here. Gave me it made my elbow perfect for an out call. Just one straighten out.
It's like what was it? Harmon Killebrew was the silhouette for the MLB thing. You're the silhouette for an out call in any umpire literature.
Yeah, there you go. I wish I just had bigger forearms. I would look a little better, but oh
don't
well.
don't we all?
Hey Gary, I got a question for you. I know Jimmy and Dale, they have their how can I put this? Their people that they love to hate. Anybody that get under your skin that you just couldn't stand, it would no matter what you did?
Depends on what part of the career. I mean, early on, Jimmy Leland and I didn't get along too well, but later on we got along fine. I had my moments with Lou Piniella, and then later on we got on fine. Uh, People ask who the worst player was. The first one that popped to my mind was Paul O'Neill. Um, Paul and I didn't exactly see eye to eye too much, and
Yeah.
I'm sure he doesn't think real highly of my umpire skills, but Paul, well, he just nothing was. You never could call a strike on him. I remember
Never
one
could call a
time
strike on him.
I had him when he was with the Reds, and then when he went over to the Yankees, and we had one of the first interleague plays. We had the Yankees and Phillies. So first time up, Paul's up, and he, swings at a pitch, and I call a couple strikes on him, and he fouls one back, and he looks at me, he goes, "Was that a good pitch?" I said, "Why don't you fucking tell me? You're the expert all the time. I mean, I'm going to ask me if that was a good pitch or not. You're not going to agree with me anyway." So
You know that
it
that
just we just continued on from there.
Well, he was, I mean, that was, the best conversation you had with Paul was the first time he came at bat and you said, "Hey, Dale." And I go, "Hi, Paul." And that was it. That was
That
your
was it.
conversation with him and he'd do it every time. But I always relay the story. And you're absolutely right, Zap. I mean, a called strike, I just didn't get the memo that you cannot call a strike at him. I didn't understand that. But one of my favorite O'Neill stories was he was with the Yankees, and I worked the plate on a Saturday afternoon in Cleveland. And the next day I'm at third base, and he happens to be at third, and there's a pitching change. And he looks back and goes, "Hey, Dale." And I go, "Hey, Paul." I said, "Oh, by the way, hell froze over." And he looked at me weird, and he goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, I think hell froze over." "Why?" I said, "Well, because yesterday I had the plate, and you didn't question one pitch." and he kind of looked around and he goes, "You're right. I think hell has frozen over."
Yeah, he was this.
But I think he's on everybody's list, though. Really, I'll be very honest with you. He
Right.
was he didn't discriminate at all. I mean, he hated all of us. So
It wasn't just me.
yeah, but it wasn't just you. I remember his last at bat with the Yankees in the regular season. I had the plate, and I thought I'd be nice, and so I kind of looked at him. He came up, and he got his ovation and everything like that. And I said, "Paul, congratulations on a great career." He says, "Thanks, Jimmy." Next pitch, out, on the outside part of the plate, Jesus Christ, that pitch is outside. I said, Paul, forget everything I just said.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
just, but
So
you know
you
what?
guys,
I saw him in an elevator one time at an All-Star game, and he was the nicest guy in the world. I mean, he said hi to my family, he said hi to my kids and everything like that. But you know, we always tell stories about that, how the guy on the field's an asshole and the guy on the street is a halfway decent guy. So,
Right.
I'm sure he wasn't always wrong, but he definitely wasn't always right.
exactly, exactly.
so you
That's-
guys aren't going to take Paul O'Neill to juniors for cheesecake after a game then?
No,
No,
no, these,
Yeah.
he probably got a head start because he was already ejected. But
Did you get him, Dale?
actually, no, I never ejected Paul.
nope, me neither.
You know, and I think
I
Paul.
think
I
I
don't know
did.
if he got ejected a lot, but I think he just was one of those, you know, gripers, but not a guy that just would blow up and you know call you all kinds of names or something. I'm sure that's happened, but I usually it's just you just can't call strikes on him, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, everybody can Google this, but his best throw from right field is the one he kicked. And I really mean literally kicked. He bobbled the ball and booted it and finally kicked it and went right to second base. It was probably the best throw he had in 10 years.
I
Yeah.
have that picture in my mind, that mental picture in my mind of the Sports Center highlight, and the ball's getting kicked, and I'm like, geez, a soccer
Well,
player.
several umpires said, you know, you should look into NFL kicking and maybe get out of this baseball thing. I mean,
So, Gary, what are you up to now?
Play a little golf and do a lot of work with Umps Care charities. Our charity, the quote unquote official charity of Major League Baseball umpires and minor league umpires now. But yeah, stay busy with that. President of the board, have been for a while, and
you know, Gary,
very
I've
proud
done
of what we do there.
right, and I know, Jimmy's done some stuff. I've done stuff when I was working, and also since I've been retired. But tell everybody kind of what Umps Care is all about and how it originated, and you know, it is like you said, it's also the minor leagues too because they've been doing a lot of work, a lot of stuff for the charity. You know, having golf outings or bowling or whatever. So why don't you give us a
Yeah.
little rundown of what Umps Care is all about?
Well, it officially started in 2006, but it kind of really started back. The premise of it started back in '99 when that unfortunate labor dispute we had between the union and within the union and MLB and all that. And some of the guys that were still working started the Helping Hand Fund, and they would, you know, pass the hat each month and send it to the guys that had lost their jobs and had the pay cut off, you know, just to see, you know, help them get by month to month. You know, that kind of kept going for a while. And then when I got my job back in 2002, you know, we still wanted to help. There were still guys that were on the outside looking in and kind of hurting. So we, you know, did a golf tournament and just would, you know, still pass the hat around trying to help retired umpires. And then we kind of got going. I was talking with Faye Vincent one time, the former commissioner, and seeing if he had any suggestions on, you know, what we could do to raise some more money. And he said, well, you know, you really, you know, raising money for retired umpires is nice, but you're never going to, you know, get much corporate sponsorships for that. It's going to be more grassroots, which is how we raise money for a long time, just within our family. But, you know, then Marvin Hudson, one of the umpires, was him and one of his minor league partners were doing, you know, hospital visits and having kids out to the ballpark. And, you know, they'd bring, you know, just doing some work like that. And we decided, well, let's merge with, you know, it was Blue for Kids. Let's merge the programs with Blue for Kids with Umps Care. And shoot, now we have, we still do the ticket program. We have Build-A-Bear workshops where we have umpires will, you know, bring 100 Build-A-Bears and different outfits for the kids in the cancer units and different parts of the pediatric in the hospital. We have our official leadership program where we're, you know, trying to find the next wave of young umpires. We had a kid at the golf tournament the other day that is, you know, he started, I think, last year, and he's already worked over, you know, like 130 games, made like $7,000 as a, you know, a little league umpire.
Wow.
So, you know, we got that program that's kind of taken off pretty well. We have our scholarship program where we give $10,000 award $10,000 scholarship for a kid that was adopted a little later in life. And we follow them all 4 years of school. So it's really a $40,000 scholarship. We've had numerous, I don't know the exact number of how many grads, but everyone that we've really got going and got into it that stayed a little bit is all graduated. So that's a life-changing program that we have.
And this, the actual Umps Care, the merge and everything was 2006, you said?
Pretty close to when Umps Care started. I think we kind of merged with Marvin and those guys a little bit after that. But it'll be our 20th, our next December, or when our golf tournament will be our 20th annual one. So
okay, very good.
Yeah.
You know, I know Jimmy did some of those Build-A-Bear Children's Hospital visits when we were working. I got to say, I was fortunate to do I don't know, maybe 6 of them. And every time just really, really got you to go to those, but to see the smiles, to see not only on the kids, which obviously, and they're so resilient. It just is amazing, but also the comments and the smiles we got from either their parents or their uncle or aunt or bigger brother or whatever that was at the hospital when we were there, and I remember numerous times. Just kind of on the side, somebody said, thank you guys for doing this. This is the most he's smiled or she's smiled in weeks, or it just was such a affirming thing, and it was so cool to be a part of. Now, I'm not going to say there were a couple times I had to walk out the room or just kind of compose myself because of how it touched you so much. But what a wonderful program, and I was so happy to be a part of that when I was working.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think there's really 100% participation from all the major league umpires at some level. I mean, some like myself, Jimmy Reynolds retired now, and Larry Young were the 3 guys that kind of really started it. But everybody's involved to a degree, whether it's a hospital visit or giving monthly, which we have programs. We have hundreds of amateur umpires that donate monthly and get involved with our workshops, and they'll have a golf tournament just to have a Build-A-Bear workshop in their town. We've had that in Utah. We don't just have the one golf tournament anymore. We have an East Coast Classic, and we get money from the guys that in Utah that do an umpire camp too. So yeah, it's grown very well, and it's got corporate sponsors now, and
right.
Minor league umpires are involved. We have bowling tournaments in both Arizona and Florida during spring training. So. And a lot of, like I said, a lot of amateur umpires are involved around the country.
And like Gary was talking about, the leadership program and stuff like that is the one that I'm probably more involved in now. And that is an amazing program. Why don't you tell them a little bit about that one, where the outreach for Umps Care actually goes to literally cities all over the country, and it's usually urban, little
underserved communities, if you will. Yeah,
exactly. That's great. That's a great word for it right there.
Yeah, we have that's another one that's grown leaps and bounds. I think we have 14 or so around the country, usually in big league cities. We just had they're either 5-6 week ones where they get together once a week, or like they just had one in Phoenix here over, it was a 2-day camp where, we had, I think, 35 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, a couple of them a little bit older, but that's kind of the general age group. Introduce them to umpiring, give them some life skills, try and teach them a little responsibility. They have to get their own equipment. They, talk about, putting some of that money away. If you put X amount of dollars away out of your check, when you're 60 years old, you'd have $1 million, and you just kind of see their eyes light up. But
how do you do that?
Yeah, really. I missed that boat.
We all did.
Does that take years to do? Because I think I'm short timing it here. So
yeah, but it's just it's not just about teaching them how to take a play at first base or a pitch or a pivot or whatever. It's especially in the longer 6-week version. It's how to be an adult, how to talk to people, how to interact, how to just be a leader. We had a young kid that I mentioned earlier that was at our golf classic the other day, and our MC was none other than Donnie Ray, who was a longtime minor league umpire, got out of the game, got into the golf business, bought a golf course here in Phoenix or in Mesa, Augusta Ranch, little municipal par 61 golf course, par 60 golf course. Donnie has now gone up the ranks so far in the PGA world. He's now president of the PGA of America, which
Wow.
doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's a freaking huge deal.
Yeah.
It is.
And he was, had the kid up talking, and Donnie was giving him speaking lessons up there. Stand up straight and look at the crowd and make eye contact. And you could just see the kid just change in the 2 minutes Donnie was talking with him. So not everybody's going to get Donnie Ray, who's become a very, very, very good, accomplished speaker, because that's, one of the main things he does with the PGA. But it was awesome just having Donnie there. And he's always been a big supporter of the charity.
That's outstanding.
He gave two tickets each to we give two different awards, our ambassador and our heart award for people that do charitable work with the charity within volunteer and stuff. And he gave both of them 2 tickets to the Masters this coming year on Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
And those are easy tickets to get, right?
Yeah. They just pop out.
You can get them on StubHub.
Yeah. Well, I hope those guys don't sell them, because they do go for $1 or $2.
Yeah, a couple.
You're going to pay through the nose.
Well,
and
also,
there's
go
also
ahead.
another thing. I'm sorry, Dale, but there's also I do Zooms with Jennifer, and I can't off the top of my head right now. I can't think of her last name. Gary, help me out on that.
Jopling or Jen Skolinchenko.
And she's also a big important cog and a part in the Umps Care world, where she does a lot of coordinating with underprivileged kids. Also, I've done Compton, I've done New York, Philly, a lot of them, and it's more that is like an hour talk of more about responsibility, facing adversity. You can imagine that, me talking about adversity, but it's
that doesn't even count the baseball part of it.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. I mean, and so it's really kind of that program also, or that part of the program also is you'd be surprised on the kids that, and they could be anywhere from 12 years old on up to 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And when the video first starts, and when we first start talking about, they have mentors there, the kids are basically sitting on their hands. And by the middle of it, they've actually started engaging in it. And, at the beginning, the mentors try to get the questions out of their mouths and stuff. Nobody wants to do it. And then by the time that we just talk, literally we're not giving a speech, or we're just talking, by the 3/4 mark, everybody's got a question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really kind of cool. And it actually does work. And
Yeah.
Well, that's that's the good thing that's come out of COVID is these Zoom calls. I mean, it helped us expand the people we can reach. I mean, we have Zoom calls where, we had one this year for our people that, monthly donors to Umps Care. They had a Zoom call with the World Series crew from last year. There was 40, that's 50 cool. People on there, and they get to ask questions with the crew. And then Jimmy Joyce does it. And I know, Teddy Barrett's done it. I've done one with, we had Joe Torre and John Hirschbeck and I were on one. So, I mean,
it's really kind of neat. It's a cool part of the program.
Yeah.
You brought up something about talking to people and getting them engaged. I gave a speech at the Sabre convention in Minneapolis this year, and I did something a little different. I wanted the people. I'm a ballpark expert, so we were talking ballparks, and I wanted them to engage with me. So I said, we're going to do this a little different. I'm going to throw a ballpark out there, and I want your questions. Tell me, give me your experience. It worked great. They felt involved. They really enjoyed it, and you could see them lining up, and you could see the wheels turning, the questions they want to ask. I think it's a great thing to get the kids involved too.
Yeah, no, it's we're proud of all the different programs. I mean, it's the scholarships, life-changing. The family care one gets people set up. We still have the basic program where we help, umpires in need. I mean, we've given shoes away to the guys, umpires in the Kentucky area with those floods there. And we're gathering equipment for people that lost, all their umpire equipment in the hurricanes. And I'm sure we're doing stuff for the fires in LA. And, it's just the family care is spread more than just helping retired umpires that have, their pension was a little short and something happens and now they can't pay their rent. We've helped amateur umpires, minor league umpires, just
And
everyday people.
like you said, that you have a ton of amateur umpires around the country that donate that are involved with Umps Care. I mean,
Very
eh,
much so.
which is really cool. I was going to ask you. I know that Major League Baseball themselves have helped Umps Care, or at least joined with this effort. And can you talk a little bit about that? I know there's a I don't know if they're well, I think they're involved with this, but the auction you have every year.
Yeah, they host that for us. They give us the platform. During that time, it's going to be, I think it's in April or May. I'm not exactly sure of those dates right off the top of my head, but during games, you go across the ticker, they'll mention Umps
Right.
Care. They do it. They help us a lot. They donate financially. They give us the platform. They give us their database of people that it goes out to. So yeah, they're the relationship between the umpires and Umps Care and MLB it's pretty strong these days.
Which is outstanding.
Yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes we can go, we meaning the union or whatever, can go head to head with MLB on things, but everybody joins in for such a good effort like this.
I think it puts baseball in good light that the umpires are doing good things in the community too.
Sure.
Billy Miller, who's the now outgoing president of the union, every year he tells them it's the best thing that the umpires do as a group is Umps Care.
Yeah, yeah. So Zap, getting off of that topic a little bit. Um, Funny story. Do you remember the first time we met?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. In
Well,
Eugene, Oregon. Yeah.
yeah, it was the year before. It was your first year. It was the year before I was going to umpire school, and you were working with Bill Spooner, who
Yeah.
we hope to have on here soon.
We just golfed yesterday. He played in the tournament, and we golfed yesterday. So that time frame came up yesterday again. Actually.
Well, Bill was hurt or sick or something, and you were working the plate with Ken Larson, who was our commissioner there in Lane County, Oregon, our boss. And so a bunch of us umpires went out to watch because we wanted to watch Ken, and he ended up throwing out the Eugene manager and having all kinds of fun. But I believe it happened to be beer night also, which just
good timing. Good timing.
Yeah, the timing was great. And of course, I was not of legal age, but I faked it. So after the game, we went down to about 5 or 6 of us went down to the locker room to say hello to Kenny and meet Gary Darling. Well, let's just say I was overserved. So I just remember Gary Darling. I said, "Hey, Gary Dale's guy, I'm going to go to umpire school." Gary's looking me up and down. I'm like, "Well, you'll fit right in, apparently."
That's probably. I'm sure I thought that. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought
I haven't heard this one. This is one of the ones I have not heard.
Oh, I mean, I swore, I was when I left, I thought, what kind of an impression did you just give the guy that's in the game, telling him that I'm going to go to umpire school, and he's probably going, yeah, good luck. No, but I still laugh at that because you only get what's the expression, the one time to give a first impression or something, and
well, it didn't hurt. I mean, it didn't stop any friendship because we continued doing the umpire camps together up, and once you got in the game and all that
Right.
kind of just took off. So
and we taught umpire school one year with Kaplan and
down in
McSherry.
82 or 83?
80. That was 80. That was 83.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was the last year I taught because then winter ball started and all that stuff.
And also Ken, or not, well, it was now then Brinkman moved it, got rid of the San Bernardino camp anyway. So
they didn't need us.
They didn't need it. That's right.
They didn't want to spend that extra flight money.
You guys talk about John McSherry a lot. What was he like? I mean, everybody, it's Big John. Everybody, they don't know. What was he like as a person off the field?
One of the most generous guys you'd ever meet in your life. I mean, he'd give you the shirt off your back. You could probably use it for 2 shirts, but he'd give you the shirt off his back. He never would let a young umpire pick up a check, or you'd have to sneak to buy him a beer.
Yeah, yeah.
Funny too.
Funny guy. I mean, funny. And John obviously a big guy, but had just his heart was bigger. But Zap had the same experience that I had is that we had John McSherry as the lead instructor of umpire school when we were a student, and then we got to work with him as an instructor with him. And as a student, that voice, and I mean, he'd intimidate the hell out of you as a student. And Big John was Then you see the other side of the coin as an instructor and see how much he really cared and how much he really. Not that you didn't see it as a student, but I mean, you just saw a whole different light of him because it was a different role, And but Gary is absolutely right as far as give the shirt off his back, because he absolutely was one of the nicest, kindest guys you ever, and funniest, one of the funnier guys I've ever met, and I've met a few in this game.
Dry sense of humor. I remember the Ben Yet story at umpire school. Ben Yet, McSherry was a 49er fan. And
just for everybody to know, Ben Yet was his name.
He was a minor league. He was an umpire at umpire school, and he's running the bases during one of the drills, and McSherry's kind of coaching third. And it was the day after the 49ers won their first Super Bowl when they beat the Bengals. And Yet gets to third base, and McSherry, he could tell if he liked you because he'd engage with you a little bit. He says, "Hey, Yeti, something happened yesterday that I've been waiting my whole life to happen." And Yet didn't miss the beat, and he goes, "What? Did you get laid?"
Oh man!
I think that moved Ben Yet way up the list on guys getting jobs, because that was a big part of being a young umpire. You have to be able to think on your feet and be able to, not be always a smart ass like that, but you had to have a little talented umpire. But once he gave that shot back at McSherry, he worked a few years in the minor leagues after that. But classic line.
The thing is, you're right. Like at umpire school, if he liked you a little bit or something, he would be on you because he wanted you to succeed, and he'd push you. And I have had that happen in real time. I screwed up something on the bases on a double play, blah blah blah, and he goes, "Jesus Christ, Scott, are you happy with that?" He goes, "All you do is stand out there and you look cool, Scott. You're really cool. You look really cool, and you fuck everything up."
Yeah, they tell you, there's a lot of good instructors, that have been out there over the years, different schools, at Harry's school and Kinnaman school and all that. Steve Ripley and Garcia and all the guys over at Harry's school too. But I tell you what, John, when he was instructing, you didn't really realize when you were there, but when you were instructing with him, he could watch the plate guy. He could see the base guy. He knew if the guys playing the field weren't doing the right thing to make the plays for the umpires. He was watching the junior instructors as they were working with the base guy or the plate guy. I mean, he definitely didn't have tunnel vision. That's for sure. He saw everything on the field.
No. And what a hell of an instructor. I mean,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Just really one of a kind, and just a great. It was such a huge loss when we lost him.
When I was in umpire school, he was one of our main instructors, and one of the things that he also used to do, in the thing that I think we've lost a little bit, is it was after school that day, after your field work and everything like that, and obviously we all would make our way to the local watering hole, and John would inevitably show up, and the instruction continued. You know what I mean? Yeah. He'd love to sit there and just talk baseball.
He loved talking
that.
Yeah.
He loved that. And we've lost that a little bit with our supervisors and stuff, because the last one that I engaged with was Marty Springstead like that. And Marty always wanted to just sit down and talk about umpiring. And unfortunately, I don't think that happens as much as it used to. So
I don't know.
John was really good at it.
Yeah. It's hard to disagree with that, but I know we used to call it the crew concept. Just forget the supervisors and the instruction side of it. We used to, you didn't have to go out and get drunk and stumble home every night, but hanging out, the crew having lunch 3 or 4 times a week, and going out after the game, whether it was in the hotel bar, your local watering hole in St. Louis or New York or wherever, and talking a little bit of umpiring after the game, but getting to know the guys on the crew. My understanding now, most of the crews, there's a few out there that will go on and have a little fun. Danny Isonia's crew, they'll go to dinner and this and that, and I'm sure Culpa's crew and a few of them. But a lot of the guys, boom, they're right back to the hotel room after the game. They're treating that per diem like it's part of their pension. I'm serious.
No,
I
It's
remember
true.
when I,
It's true. I mean, again, it's it's a different breed or whatever. We're old guys, but
yeah,
you know, most of the time, crews stayed at the same hotel. Sometimes now, it's just scattered. I mean, you've had that in the past. I've been on crews in the past where the only time you saw them was when earlier in my
yeah,
career. Only time you saw them was at the ballpark. But you learn so much off the field, just talking, just chatting away and relaying stories, which could be very funny and stuff, but also within those stories are how to handle situations or how to deal with this or how to take a play. All those things make you a better umpire. And it's in a setting, a very low pressure, casual setting that you can pick somebody's brain, or you could just sit and listen and take it all in and everything in between. And it really is, I think, a very key part of becoming a good official, a good crew chief, a good crew member, is that type of stuff.
yeah. Just getting to know the guys. Forget. I mean, the umpiring part of it always is, a big part of it, obviously. But getting to know the guys' families a little bit. Just, I mean, I think you go into not, I hate to use it, go into battle with them on the field, but you
Right.
go out there in the field. I got your back. You're going to have my back. But if you never see the guy, he's always sneaking off and going back to the room to, do whatever, you know, you just, they're just that, you just don't know them. So, I
Right.
mean, that crew concept was huge,
Right.
huge, huge.
What was your
But
per diem? What was your per diem at the end of your careers, guys? I know it was really low when you started, but what was it? What was it at the end?
I'm
geez.
probably
Before
360, 380, maybe four. I don't
it
know if
was
I,
on there,
I don't,
yeah.
what was your last year, Jimmy?
16.
Yeah. So my last year was
It was a
13.
it was a
Yeah.
little over four. It was a little
Yeah,
over four.
mine was 17, but I only worked 5 games that year. But
Yeah.
Well, you got per
yeah,
diem
I
for
think it was
5 games.
over 4. But and people say, "My God, that's a lot." But you look at hotels in major cities. Yes, you had maybe some deals here and there, but and you made money on per diem in some cities, and you spent it in others.
Right.
Just
No, it came out in the wash.
right, exactly. And
I
um,
always would try and tell the guys, the young guys growing up, they come up and join your crew and they're in the minor leagues. And yeah, you got to use that per diem to try and get yourself out of debt a little bit. But once you get hired and you're on staff, you can't put the per diem into your family budget because
no,
what if fail, concussions, Jimmy, knees, me, whatever. You can't guarantee you're going to be on the field all the time. And if
right,
you're counting on that per diem to make your car payment, that's just not going to work.
no,
Right.
no.
It's not what it's there for.
Well,
But
the
that's
old adage used to be that Derwood Merrill, longtime umpire,
classic, one of the classics of the game.
Character. I worked with him a lot.
three-time class character. But boys, I put away enough money to take care of mama.
Yeah.
Well, his
And
cost of
he was
living in
talking about his per
Texarkana was
diem. He was always talking about his per diem. Yep.
I mean,
yeah,
it
he
would
was a
be,
classic.
you'd always could count on a couple bucks later, but that's not what it was for. I mean,
Sure.
No.
and sure, if you never go to dinner, if you never go to, some of the great restaurants around the country, I mean, to me, that was always one of the better parts of the job. I mean,
The
being away
highlight.
from home, you might as well take advantage and live like a real human being besides working the games.
You mentioned Derwood Merrill. I got a Derwood Merrill story. I was 17. No, I was 18. It was 1977, May of 1977. I'm sitting in the dugout for the game at Anaheim Stadium, which I know you can't do, but the Red Sox, they took me under their wing and they hid me, and I sat there the whole game. Dewey Evans strikes out on a high fastball from Derwood Merrill. He comes in, he sits down next to me, slams the bat down. He goes, "That burns my fucking ass. That guy is blind as a fucking bat. It was a ball." And he's going off. I said, "Dewey, you'll get him next time. Son of a bitch, if he does not hit a home run the next time." He comes running by everybody. He comes and gives me a high five in the dugout. Jim Rice looks at me and goes, "You're our luck charm. You're going to be here tomorrow." And I said, "I don't have tickets." He goes, "You do now."
Yeah, no
Okay.
kidding. That's funny.
Well, Derwood's famous line is he'd call a strike and the hitter would look back. Derwood would go, "That's a Hall of Fame pitch. That's a Hall of Fame." And the hitter would say, "Yeah, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. You keep calling that."
Didn't Derwood also say, when he called play at first base and he'd really want to, really sell it? And he goes, boys, if my hat comes off, it means I really didn't know what it was.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. My one of my favorites. Okay, so when Derwood had the plate, he had these knee pads that he had underneath his shin guards, right? And written on the knee pads, there's two lines, and on the top line, above the top line, it says strike, and below the bottom line, it says ball, and in between, it says don't know.
Too funny. Now these guys, these young kids now, they got that strike zone so dialed in now, it's scary.
Oh, just the last few years, 3, 4, 5 years that I worked, and we have this system evaluating us. I mean, these guys would knock out scores that were unbelievable. Now, sometimes both dugouts would be on fire, but they were getting the pitches right, Um, and I don't know about you guys. It took some adjusting when we started that in the early 2000s of just what we had been used to calling for many years, and now getting it within the confines of the evaluation and all that stuff, especially outside, probably more than anything. But it took some for everybody. I mean, certainly.
Everybody.
I remember hitters. I mean, pitchers. They weren't getting the pitches they thought they were going to get. Hitters, whatever. But you're absolutely right, Zap. Some of these younger guys that come in there and they're knocking out, outstanding scores. They know how to handle that machine.
They do that. That's what I'm sure you guys have talked about this before on the program, though, that everybody now believes that machine so much that, if you ball that pitch that's a quarter inch, off the plate, they just, they believe what that little box shows them.
Right.
It's just gotten too extreme that way.
Well,
one of the things that we've talked about is not only the official version, but the unofficial version that it plays online all the time, where I don't even know what it's called, Ump Score or something like that. That one infuriates me.
Scorecard.
It's not sanctioned at all or anything like that, and the one thing and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but the one thing that I've always been disappointed in is that Major League Baseball doesn't come out and say, and I don't know why it is. Maybe it's they don't want to appear to be in our favor or whatever, but they don't back their guys up that are scoring high and are taken to task on that unofficial version that just eats them alive. And I've always been a little disappointed on baseball maybe not addressing that other one that everybody believes because they think that's the true version, because baseball never puts anything out on their version. And
right.
That's the thing, that the teams have a different version. The umpires are graded on a different version of the box that you're seeing on TV. I mean, everybody knows that Altuve and Aaron Judge are different sizes.
Right.
That box isn't different,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's that's why, I'm sure I understand they're working on it. They're going to have the challenge system this spring training, and probably won't be during the season this year, but probably next year have some sort of challenge system, because I really don't think the technology's there to do it in real time.
Right.
I mean,
right.
They can't adjust it per hitter in real time.
Right. Well, we would get our numbers the day after. Why? Because they would have a technician go in and make sure the lines were correct on pitches that the system said that we missed. They want to make sure the lines were in it because they can't do it in real time. Now, I do know, I just read a deal that came the other day, is that talking about being in spring training this year and not at every ballpark, but a lot of them in both Florida and Arizona, but they are measuring every player. Their height and whatever. I don't know if they're measuring. They must be measuring, when they're in their natural stance or whatever as a hitter. And then there's some other independent firm or something is going to measure that also to corroborate. So so it's all legit or whatever. Now again, this is a three-dimensional zone that is going to be evaluated by a computer system or whatever that is given the information it's given, and every hitter is going to have a specific his height, weight, or not weight, but height, when he swings, whatever. We'll see how it all plays out. But again, I just saw they have a California Winter League for like 3 weeks or something here in Palm Springs, and I was over there Saturday and was talking to a former player that was in the Cardinals system for a while, but he was saying, I don't like this as a player, and this and that. And he was in the minor leagues as a coach this past couple of years, so he's seen it, how they did it in the minor leagues and all that stuff. And I said, well, you know why it's happening? I mean, more than anything else, it's the gambling. Um, Now with gambling, where you can bet on practically anything you want from your couch on an app, and baseball's getting just ripped apart when this bogus on-screen strike zone shows one thing and something's right off the line outside, and an umpire calls strike, and people's heads explode because they think, well, that's 3 inches outside, and I'm not even sure it is outside, but if it is, it's like a quarter of an inch or whatever. But gambling has exploded so much. All the professional leagues have embraced gambling, with
They're all making gazillions off of it.
right, exactly. And Gary and Jimmy, day one in umpire school, gambling was the biggest taboo that you could. I mean, drugs was one thing, but gambling, my God, they stressed that with us. It was just inground into our brains, and now it's just like they're promoting it. I mean, it
Yeah.
blows
And
me away.
we've said it on this podcast many, many times. The very first thing you see when you used to walk into an umpire's dressing room was the placard that said, "Do not gamble on baseball games." It was on every locker room and everything like that. It's in every player's locker room, and just like you guys just said, it's ran rapid now, and DraftKings and everything like that. They entice you. It's amazing. I was watching the football game the other day. Make a $5 bet, get $300. A guy sitting there going, "Whoa, that's a pretty good deal."
Right. I'm not even a gambler. I'll try that.
And there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I mean, you can bet.
They-
You can change it. It changes. Football. And you can bet the spread in the first half, the second half. The over under changes how the score goes.
Yep.
Right.
My son and I, they come over every Sunday for dinner. Bring the grand boys over, and we usually make $5 each, so a $10 bet on who's going to score the first touchdown. It's usually 14-1 or 1,100. If you win 1,100 if you bet 100. So it's we bet $10, we win $110, and the odds go longer on who what position the guy plays and all that kind of stuff. But we finally we hit a couple the first year we were doing it. We had a long dry spell this year, but we hit last night. We had Kareem Hunt to score the first touchdown of the game last night. But I mean, go back to the gambling on baseball. Everybody, Pete Rose should be in because he's the hit king and all that. But like Jimmy said, every room he ever went into had that poster. If you bet on baseball, you'd be banned for life. I mean, it wasn't a secret. I mean, yeah, he was a great hitter, and now that he's gone, God rest his soul and all that. And maybe they will eventually put him in, but he knew what he was doing. And if he said, well, he never bet on the Reds to lose, but the perception of the gambling is, well, if he didn't bet on them to win, then he thought they were going to lose. That's the way that's the way the bookies are always looking for an angle. I mean,
right. And remember how all this gambling. I mean, just over 100 years ago with the 1919 White Sox that almost killed the game. I mean that almost shit canned the game. Daniels. Yeah.
The NBA had it with their guy. I mean, that was a bad deal. Donahue or whatever his name was.
Donahue, yeah.
Donahoe.
I saw last year or a couple of years ago that ump scorecard, which makes me insane, and just ragging on umpires and blah blah blah. And then one night, an umpire missed the first pitch of a game and then got everything else right. So he missed one pitch. It happened to be the first pitch, but it get the rest of the game right. So I wrote in there just I always hear everybody bitches and complains about these scores, which I put the caveat that I don't even depend on these scores of ump scorecard for various reasons. But I said, well, how about a little shout out for the guy that missed one pitch? And somebody said, well, he wasn't perfect.
Good night. See ya.
You win. Okay.
What did Doug Harvey always tell us? It's a job you you're supposed to be perfect your first day and strive to get better.
Yeah, you're supposed to start off perfect and then get better. Good luck with
God
that.
rest his soul too.
We don't use the word perfect.
No.
Sorry, Jim. That's right.
Yeah, Jimmy's. Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, that just showed your character, though, Jimmy. I mean,
Yeah, I'm a character.
yeah.
And Jimmy, Dale and I think you're perfect, so it's
Okay.
good. We
Yeah,
we don't go to that other thing. So
There you go. Okay.
You
Zap,
remember that week we spent in Edmonton, Jimmy? Not to change the show, whatever, but when you and I were working 2-man up in Edmonton, oh my God, that might have been of all. I mean, spent a lot of time with a lot of different people umpiring, but that might have been one of the most fun year I ever had in the game was that year right there. We laughed day and night. Then we got Danny DeShays and just made it even funnier.
And didn't we have before that filled in? Didn't we have Mike Pilato that filled in actually? Dana had to go to the big leagues, and Cutler wanted to put one extra guy in there, and Mike Pilato was going to go to umpire school, or was it the other guy first?
No, it was. We didn't have Pilato. There was some guy that was one of the. He had the nice crest on his shirt, and you went to ask him on a check swing. It was a cold night in Edmonton, and he had his hands in his pockets, and you asked him on a check swing, and he pulled his hand out, and there was a sandwich in it when he went safe. Oh my God!
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Zap. Any? Well, I know you have them. Anything come to mind? You want to tell us a couple funny stories from either minor leagues or the big leagues when you were working? We throughout the podcast, Jimmy and I have shared a few as they pop up in our minds or whatever. Is anything that you remember that just still crack you up to this day?
Well, I mean, it was before I even went to the Northwest League in 1980. I went to school in 80 and was home working some college games or whatever, just kind of trying to work on the footwork and just get games in. And they needed somebody in Lodi one night. One I was Danny Peterson and Jim Garman was the crew, and Garman had something he had to do down in LA. So I joined Danny Peterson, who was good friends with Dana, longtime college umpire now. Peterson was, but so I'm working second base. And all I can hear in my mind is, don't let them call you a horse shit. Don't, there's a lot of swearing going on at umpire school. McSherry could swear up like a sailor. So I get a play. I'm working second base, and Candy Maldonado for the Dodgers, Lodi Dodgers, slides into second base, takes the guy out, and I call interference. Well, I found out right away that you don't usually make that call in professional baseball. They can wipe guys out, not that big a deal. So Dick McLaughlin's the manager. He comes out to argue the play. I said, Dick, he took him out. It was interference. He looked at me and goes, well, that's a horse shit call. And my ears went, horse shit? I said, well, you're fucking out of here. And I actually dropped the F-bomb. I said, you're fucking out of here. McLaughlin's chin dropped. You remember, you guys both remember.
Absolutely.
Dick. Great guy. His chin drops. I look over Peterson. He's like this. And I knew I probably shouldn't have said that. I said, well, Mac, called him Mac like we were best fucking friends. I said, Mac, you're still done. And he looks at me and he goes, no, you are. And I'm thinking, I'm not getting paid for this game. I'm going to the Northwest League in a few weeks. I'm fired before I even start my career. So luckily, Peterson kind of knew McLaughlin liked to have a beer or two. So he goes, after the game, we'll get this straightened out. Don't worry. So we got a 12-pack of beer. We went over there and took it over to the manager's room there in Lodi and explained the situation. He was great about it. He understood. And, I'd see him in instruction league that fall. And, for the next 4 or 5 years, I'd see him around minor league baseball games and stuff. And everything turned out fine. But I just remember, no, you are. And I said,
no,
yeah.
Dickie Mack was really was one of the good ones, and I'll never forget. I was in the Midwest League, and the hitter's name was Foley, and he was playing for the Brewers in Burlington. We're in Burlington, and the local place was the Ground Round, and we'd go to the bar there or sit at the table. And Dick McLaughlin comes over to our table. He shows up and comes over to our table one night, and it was with Jim Johnston and me, and we're sitting there having a pitcher of beer, and Dick comes up and he says, "Hey, I got a question for you guys." He says, "Foley," he says, "he's got something written on his bat up by the up at the top of the bat." He says, he goes, "Do you know what it's up there?" And I said, "Yeah, it says Jesus saves." And he's got a cross. And Dick goes, "Wow." He said, "I'm sure glad." He goes, "I thought it was a Jesus Christ autograph model, and I knew Jesus was a better hitter."
That's a good one.
I mean, how do you pitch to him?
You talk like this, and oh man, like Gary said, he was a good guy. He would sit and listen to you, like really about anything. And as a matter of fact, I looked up his name a month ago, and unfortunately, he has passed. And
Has he? I was just gonna.
Yeah,
but I was gonna Google him later.
He was one. Yep, he was one of the good ones. So
you know that ballpark in Lodi burned to the ground.
I think I was there. It was after one of my calls.
Yeah, some kids. It was a wooden ballpark, and some kids were playing in. Oh, whoa! There we go. But kids were playing in the Jesus Christ, that's big head Todd and the Monsters here. They burned the park down, so I think they're rebuilding it. But it was
that's what happened in Eugene.
Yeah, exactly.
Kids playing around with fireworks at the Emeralds Park.
That's where Civic Stadium in Eugene. That's where I met Gary. I don't remember it because I was drunk, but that's where.
Well, my daughter worked there.
Really?
Years ago.
One of my favorite things, Gary, I'll never forget is, at umpire school for 5 weeks, things are different now, I think, but umpire school for 5 weeks, you heard a lot of cussing. I mean, there was a lot of cussing. And
even during the prayer,
it was just, a lot of cussing. And then you related a story where you get out of umpire school and you went home and you had a family dinner.
Pass the fucking potatoes, Mom. Jeez. I still apologize to her whenever that comes up. I'm sorry, Mom. What a goof.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Remember Phil Jansen, who works for the union still to this day, invited us over to his house for Easter dinner, and he did the same thing, passed the fucking salt. And I thought his mother was a church-going, God-fearing piano teacher, and I thought she was going to fall off her chair. And Phil just laughed. Phil laughed like it was the best line he's ever delivered.
My son the other day.
My mother-in-law was a little Jewish lady, and she could drop F-bombs. My wife will attest, she could drop F-bombs with the best of them. And she called my brother a fucking schmuck one time, which is the worst thing you can call someone in Yiddish. She hated him. And she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that." I said, "No, I agree with you." So, but she could cuss like a sailor. I mean, it was pretty funny.
Well, wasn't it you, Zap, that I think it was at umpire school that you had a fair foul and you.
No, I was actually in Double A.
Double A.
Fair foul.
This is folks. I'm just going to introduce this one. This is a classic.
Tell us what happened.
Go ahead, Zap.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell it, Jimmy.
No, you go ahead. I wasn't there.
No, it was. I know you weren't there, but I think I was working with Pam actually.
Yeah.
Balls rolled up the third base line. Every second week umpire school, they tell you to point fair, not yell fair, because it sounds too similar. Well, me with my quick timing that kind of never went away. I think the ball's going foul, and then the guy touched it, and I pointed. I yelled fair, and then I came up foul, and I went fuck. I think we ended up with a foul ball, but
the three Fs, three Fs on one hit.
Yeah.
Classic story. It's still living out there.
Yeah.
I got one for all three of you guys. When you got a manager or pitching coach on the mound, or the catcher's out there and they're out there for seemed like 20 minutes, what do you guys say to them when you walk out there?
You're done usually because they're waiting for you to come
they're
up.
Waiting exactly.
I wouldn't wait. If I knew they were pissed about something, I wouldn't wait that.
No.
Usually you kind of count to 10 when they get out there, whatever, just give them a little time. If I know they're waiting, let's just go get this over with. I'm going now.
Yeah. The inevitable is happening. We might as well do it.
I'd say that in my head. I would say that to myself. I'd say, well, you might as well get out there now because it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
No, they're going to wait.
Yep.
It's not going to suddenly rain.
You could, yeah.
it was like Lasorda. When something like that would happen, you would see him back off and watch the umpire come up, and okay, it's going to get good now because
Well,
Tommy was not shy.
a good indicator was when he's walking to the mound, he's just staring at you. When he gets to the mound, he's still staring at you. When
Exactly.
It's
There was
just-
Tommy
always
was
two.
a Tommy was a pain in the shorts, but boy, what a great ambassador for the game, though. I mean, he was he talking about somebody that could swear up a storm,
I
but
know.
he was a great ambassador. There's no doubt of like Euchre, just guys that just promoted the game in a good way. I mean, Tommy was he was a bit of a homer manager, not always the
Right.
fairest guy, but he was a great ambassador.
when he was in AAA as a manager, way back when I was 10, 11 years old, 12 years old in Eugene, and he was managing Spokane. And a friend of mine and I, we would go to the games at Old Civic Stadium, watch the M's, but we would bet on which inning he'd get run because it seemed like every game that he was in, every game that we saw in Eugene, he got ejected. They certainly had an argument, or he would get ejected. And one day we went to a doubleheader. He got run both games. It's like,
Well, Paul Olden's story. We've had Paul on the show twice, and the Kingman comment. What do you think of Kingman's performance? And it was F bomberama from Tommy for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, he could drop him.
Oh my
drop
God, could Tommy drop him? I mean, because a lot of times he was mic'd up, and then they'd have to bleep it, and we would listen to Jim Healy show in L.A. and oh my God, and Healy would love the Lasorda tapes, because he would bleep it and play it all the time. But Tommy had a tongue; he could
Tommy Tongue, yeah.
he could swear.
One of
So,
his players was just at our golf tournament. He plays every year. He comes over with Jim Wolf's uncle, Rick Wolf, Billy Russell. He plays every year in our tournament.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What a nice guy he is.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Just
I was lucky enough back in the early '80s to be assigned to Vero Beach, and I think didn't they win the World Series in '81?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and it was the best spring training assignment ever. And then I went there in '82, and they didn't win the World Series, and it just got cut in half. But the year after they won the World Series, that was a really good time.
I'll take your spring at Vero and raise you a spring in Yuma.
Well,
Yeah.
I went to Casa Grande, so let's.
Well, yeah, okay.
I'll double down on Casa Grande, Arizona.
my first spring training was Casa Grande. Drive over from Phoenix. Spooner got to go to Peoria. He's with Bob Beeman. Myself, Al Kaplan, and Dave Rivar were down in Casa Grande.
Aye.
And then next year I was down there with Dana. Dana was our chief. And Dana, he liked to shoot a little pool. We go into this dive bar in Casa Grande. And Dana can play pretty good pool. And he's hustling these guys. And you could carry a gun in Arizona. And these biker guys had guns on their strapped to their side. And DeMuth is hustling and playing pool.
There you go.
That I'm not sure if this is a real good idea, but
yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to work out.
crazy.
Before we wrap up, though, Zap, getting back to Umps Care, what's their website?
It's www.umpscare.com. I mean, just take a look at it, get more stats than I could give you, but it's we're just really proud of all the work we do around the country, the different programs and the different people we've helped and the college grads, and it's just all umpires should be proud of it because it started out with just big league guys, and now it's really expanded. I mean, we almost raised $1 million last year. We're getting big.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
We're getting big. Yeah, you cross. That's what Paul Emmel's our vice president now, and he says we get to $1 million. Now you get a seat at the big boys table. So Paul's trying to take us over that threshold this year. I gave him, not that I tell people what to do, but he wanted to try and raise more corporate money. I said, you should have at it. That's not my strong suit. It's not what I'm good at or whatever, but because we got another employee this year. We got a four lady staff that you met. Jen Skolonchenko Platz, our executive director. Jennifer Jopling's our program manager. Amy Rosewater's our Amy's our social media, and then Jessica Starkovich is, helping out on all fronts. So
I deal with Amy. I deal with when I do my our Zooms. I deal with Amy and with Jennifer, and they are big league. They're major league. Not only good people, but what they do, they're very good at. So
yeah, they're all professionals. I'm scared if it was, left up to Reynolds and me and Larry Young and the other guys on the executive board, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are. When I mentioned Marvin Hudson and the Blue for Kids, when we merged with them, Samuel Dirth was the minor league umpire that was friends with Marvin. He was our first executive director, and he got the ball rolling. And then when he wanted to get out, he recommended Jen taking his spot, and she's just great with relationships and maintaining relationships and, talking to donors and stuff. And then it got to be more than a one lady shop. So brought on Jennifer Jopling with, she worked with Jen at the Nationals, who her husband, JJ, we call her, because we got Jen, JJ, Amy, and now we got Jessica. So we got a lot of J's, as you would know. You'd appreciate, Jimmy.
I'm a JJ.
Yeah.
You should apply. You get right in.
Exactly.
You'd be a volunteer, though. You get the same pay I get. But no, they're all just professionals. And JJ's husband was the traveling secretary for the Nationals. Now he's the traveling secretary for the Giants. So they're coming out this way. Amy's husband's a cardiologist, more on the behind the scenes, not operating on heart, but pathology kind of stuff. So, and JSP, her husband, was a director for Monday Night Football. He did the national championship game. He did one of the semifinal game. He's a big time director for all the football and baseball. So
did he? Was he there at the Rose Bowl? Because Oregon wasn't.
Oregon. They stayed home that day. No, actually, JSP was there.
Was it? Yeah.
The whole family went to that game. Yeah, Jimmy directed that game.
Wow.
My brother-in-law was happy, Dale. I knew you wouldn't be.
No, it wasn't so much that they lost. I mean, Ohio State's just the way they did it.
They didn't lose. They got their ass kicked.
Exactly. I mean, it's 35-0 before they score in the last play of the first half so they're not shut out. First half. It was not pretty.
That's okay, Gary. Jimmy and I were texting Mike to make sure Dale wasn't swinging off a curtain rod in the shower.
Yeah, that's you know what? I used to be. Still, I'm a 49er fan.
Right.
But I've learned over the years, the fans take it way harder than the teams do. I mean, you watch a game ends now, and they're exchanging jerseys, they're hugging it out. It's a love fest after a game, and you're worried about hanging in this off the shower curtain. So
exactly.
I'll still yell at the TV every now and then, catch the fucking ball or dive on the floor to try and get a fumble, but I stopped doing that because I can't get up anymore. But it's it's not worth the aggravation getting worked up more than the players that are actually playing get worked up over it. But that being said, I hope the Chiefs lose this week.
We should change the name of the podcast to Medicare Boys.
Well, slow down now.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with Medicare.
No, not at all. No, not at all. Trust me, I know.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, we pay more for insurance now in Medicare than we ever did working because baseball had such a good health coverage.
Exactly.
So anyway, it's a good problem to have, having to pay Medicare.
Yes, it is.
We are at the end of time here, kids. And Gary, thank you for coming on. This has been great. With this, as usual, with the umpires, you get the stories. We had Cheats on a while back, and he was awesome. You were awesome. I know Dale and Jimmy appreciate having you on, and good luck with Umps Care. It's a great organization. I appreciate it. Yeah, Cheats is a way better storyteller than me. He's got a better memory, but I appreciate you giving me time to talk about Umps Care. It is something that, I'm not 24 hours a day on it, but it does, when I'm not golfing, I'm doing a lot of stuff for the charity. So
yeah, but you're pretty much the face of Umps Care.
Well, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know the face, but I think
so. Yeah. I think so.
Well, I appreciate that. It's just, that's kind of, Jimmy Reynolds was always the chief of staff. That's how I'm the president. I said, well, we should just switch because he's much more in tune with the business side of it and all that. But our relationship worked well that way. But yeah, that's kind of my strong suit is just whatever. But
Well, I
helping
think
raise money and
when you golf, it's kind of like charity because you're always paying somebody off, right? But
if Spooner won't bet me that chicken shit.
thanks, Zap, for coming on. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys, for having me. We'll see you sometime down the road.
That was awesome.
Absolutely. He is Gary Darling. He is Dale Scott. He is Jimmy Joyce. We had an umpires roundhouse today. Thanks for joining. Remember, subscribe to the channel and always remember, hey, take the road to the left. You never know what you'll find. See you next time. Bye-bye.